I think points to the value of narrative, and we've called it sometimes useful fiction, or fiction is a term that August has coined. It's the idea that you have different tools of analysis. You've got SIGINT, signals report, intelligence. We've got human. Fiction is combining narrative, creating a world, characters populating that world, but with real world research. So it's not pie in the sky science fiction on future planets. It's taking the real world research and set it in the real world places, real world friction or fog, what the Clausewitz would advise. And then you follow them through that world. And so you get to see it from different places and locales, and we set the book in Washington D.C. of the future, and that means we get to follow the characters everywhere from their government job, the office, to as they're deployed, what is Union Station like, to there's a firefight. What is it going to be like in a firefight in the future as you're weaving in various unmanned systems and the like, to we get to follow them home. And that allows you to see one of the, I think, real trends that we talk about a lot in national security, but it's hard to really kind of visualize. It's not only, okay, what is AI like, but even trends like the democratization of technology, the idea that different from past generations, the most advanced technology will be widely proliferated. So it's, not a story of only a couple of powers having nuclear power or weapons. It's AI in the hands of everyone, which means something like face recognition software. You as someone working for government and national security, there will be scenarios where you have it, but oh, by the way, it will be applied against you as a consumer when you walk into that train station. Oh, by the way, it will be applied against your child in trying to shape what they buy. And so that is a way of visualizing it, and you get to come at it. You also, of course, get to come at it from different characters' perspectives. So, you have your hero, you also have your villain. And so that allows you to explore things like, a particular message underlying it in terms of the security is just how incredibly vulnerable Internet of Things is, that we're baking in massive vulnerabilities which are going to change cybersecurity, from threats that are about theft of information to more and more what the United States pioneered with Stuxnet, which are cyber attacks that cause physical damage. The difference being that it's not going to take massive efforts of NSA and associated to build Stuxnet like what happened. It's going to be in the hands of even one individual. And that opens up, again, changes in security effects, it changes in the threats that are out there, changes in even the way that we need to think about defense. We have too much of a deterrence framework, thinking that we can scare away certain attacks. And in a world where you've got this lowering, it's more about resilience. There will be certain types of attacks that you won't be able to scare away, even with the threat of the most overwhelming punishment. And so what you want instead are resilient systems. And oh, by the way, that allows you to explore some of these other new national security threats that are out there. For example, climate change, which again is not something you can scare away. It's more about building resilience to it.
So you choose to focus around this challenge set as it presents itself in a domestic threat context. The actors, at least in this book, I note that the book ends with the potential for more books. So at least in this book, you have a variety of different domestic characters, but they are American, and they're disgruntled, or they have different approaches or views about how society is changing. Did you select that set of threat vectors because you think it's under-examined, or what was your reason for moving from a sort of a U.S.-China focus like in Ghost Fleet to a domestic context for security?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that, there's things that I thought, and then obviously the events of the last several weeks, we're all doing soul searching, and I'm two books in many ways. Where if I've likened the whole enterprise of this nonfiction within a novel is like sneaking fruit and veggies into a smoothie, except for the policy world. So we're sneaking information in an enjoyable package, just like you would do to your kids. And I'm, that was one way that I've thought about this framing of using narrative. But I also have been reflecting on the fact that the last two books, which have been thought of as national security, both have had largely domestic themes to them. When you think about disinformation, online weaponization, that being like war, and then the setting of Burn-In is in Washington D.C. So there was obviously a fictional side of we had explored a U.S.-China war. There obviously could have been a staying in that world. Same characters, kind of the way, Tom Clancy did, where Jack Ryan went from analyst to, president or whatever. And it was funny, we also had, people on the Army side saying, you did Ghost Fleet. When are you going to do an Army Ghost Fleet? So one is your creator side, you want to explore different worlds. But I also think it connects to something that we're all feeling right now, which is, yes, there is a clear strategic competitor in China. And, I've got the bona fides of arguing that before that narrative played out in much of DC. So I can't be challenged on that. But I will add this. I think our greater challenge is at home. And we can see it in all sorts of different ways. And what Burn-In in many ways is exploring that of these forces of change, how they're hitting the United States, but they're hitting a United States that's more divided than ever, that also is more brittle than it thinks.